Ladies, let me tell you something. There comes a moment in every woman's life when she has to look in the mirror, not just to fix her hair, not just to check her makeup, not just to adjust a dress, but to check her value, to remind herself that her worth is not up for negotiation, that her heart is not a clearance item, that her time, her body, her peace, and her future are not on sale just to keep someone who never saw her as priceless to begin with. You see, love isn't supposed to hurt your soul. It isn't supposed to shrink you down until you barely recognize the woman staring back at you. You weren't made to bend and twist yourself like a gymnast just to fit into someone's small idea of what a woman should be. You were born to walk with your head high, to speak your truth, to own your space, and any relationship that demands you dim your light just so someone else can shine. That's not love. That's manipulation wrapped in sweet words and empty promises. Some of you are out here holding on so tight to a man who's been letting go for years, a man who treats your presence like a favor. He's doing you when in reality your presence is the blessing he never deserved. And deep down, you know it. You feel it every time you look at your phone, waiting for a reply that never comes. You feel it every time you bend your boundaries, compromise your standards, and silence your voice just to avoid an argument. But baby, let me ask you this. What are you really fighting for? Love or the idea of love? Are you fighting for the future you imagined or the reality you're stuck in? Because the two are not the same. Let me speak to that woman who's been crying herself to sleep, but waking up every morning pretending everything's fine. To the one who's afraid that if she walks away, she might end up alone. To the one who keeps making excuses for him, hoping he'll change, praying he'll see her differently someday. Stop shrinking. Stop settling. Stop sacrificing your soul for scraps. You were not born to be almost loved. You were not created to be tolerated. You are not a side note. You are the headline. You are not someone's backup plan. You are the blessing they were supposed to handle with care. And if they can't rise to meet your standard, it is not your job to lower yourself to theirs. Listen, sometimes the hardest thing to do is to walk away from the very thing you prayed for. But not everything that looks like a blessing came from God. Some things were sent to teach you, to remind you of your worth, to build your strength, to sharpen your discernment. Not every door that opens is meant to be walked through, and sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is close a door and lock it for good. You don't have to explain yourself to people who were never trying to understand you in the first place. You don't need to perform loyalty to someone who wouldn't lift a finger for you. Stop begging people to stay. If someone can walk away from you, let them. Don't chase. Don't plead. Don't trade your dignity for temporary company. You see, when you lower yourself just to keep someone, you're teaching them that your value is negotiable. You're telling them that they can disrespect you, disappear on you, gaslight you, and you'll still be there. That no matter how many times they mess up, they'll always have a soft place to land. And that's how they take you for granted, because you never required them to rise. Let me say this clearly. You are not hard to love. You are just asking the wrong person to love you. A real man, one who's ready, whole, and mature, will not require you to shrink. He will not demand your silence. He will not take your kindness as weakness. He will step up because he recognizes what he has. He will protect your heart, not play with it like a toy. Ladies, don't confuse length of time with value. Just because he's been around for years doesn't mean he's worth another second of your peace. Time doesn't equal love, and history doesn't equal destiny. Some of you are in relationships where you feel lonelier than when you were single. You walk on eggshells, censor your emotions, and play the perfect girl just to avoid his wrath or silence. That's not love. That's a slow emotional death. And every day you stay, you are teaching yourself that you don't deserve better. That survival isn't. That crumbs are okay because you're afraid of starting over. But hear me, starting over is not failure. Staying stuck is. You are not too old. You are not too broken. You are not too late. And yes, you are strong enough to walk away. You are wise enough to rebuild. You are bold enough to heal. And once you choose you, everything changes. You stop over-explaining. You stop over-giving. You stop over-apologizing. You stop being addicted to potential and start falling in love with peace, with joy, with freedom, with you. And once you taste that kind of peace, you'll never settle for chaos again. Because there's a difference between love that grows you and love that drains you. One makes you stronger, the other leaves you empty. One feels like home, the other feels like a war zone. And no matter how much you try to convince yourself otherwise, you cannot heal in the same environment that broke you. Let me ask you this. When did you stop choosing yourself? When did you start believing that your needs were too much? that your voice didn't matter, that your tears were just part of the price you had to pay to keep someone. That's not the kind of love you were created for. You were created for a love that builds, not breaks, that honors, not humiliates, that speaks life, not fear, that grows in truth, not manipulation. You deserve a partner, not a project, a teammate, not a tyrant. So if you're in a place where you're constantly having to prove your worth, stop. The right person won't need convincing. The right person will already see the gold in you, and he'll protect it like it's the most precious thing in the world. You don't have to lower your volume for someone who refuses to hear you. You don't have to dull your shine for someone who's blind to your brilliance. You don't have to make yourself small to fit into a space that was never built for your greatness. The truth is, the more you raise your standard, the more people will fall away, and that's okay. Not everyone is meant to go where you're going. Some people were only meant to be chapters, not the whole book. Let them go. Let them exit. Let them take their drama, their confusion, and their chaos with them. And then stand tall. Stand tall in your power, in your softness, in your standards, in your healing, in your brilliance, in your divine femininity. You don't need to beg to be seen. You were already enough the moment you decided to rise. And if you're still wondering if it's okay to let go, let me be the one to tell you, yes, it is. It's okay to outgrow people. It's okay to protect your peace. It's okay to put yourself first. It's okay to walk away from what once felt like everything, because sometimes what you're afraid to let go of is the very thing holding you back from what God is trying to give you. So let it go. Let go of the fear. Let go of the guilt. Let go of the fantasy. Let go of the habit of proving yourself to people who never even saw you, and step into the season where you are unapologetically you, where you speak boldly, love freely, give wisely, and never again lower yourself just to keep someone. You deserve a love that doesn't require you to abandon yourself. You deserve a life where your standards are met without begging, and you deserve to look in the mirror every single day and say with full confidence, I chose me. I kept my peace. I stayed true to who I am. Because at the end of the day, losing someone who never valued you is not a loss. It's a graduation. So rise, queen, straighten your crown, and never lower yourself just to keep someone again. Because when you finally decide to stop shrinking just to make others comfortable, you begin to feel something you haven't felt in a long time. Peace. That peace isn't loud. It doesn't scream for attention. It whispers quietly in your soul saying, this is who you are when no one is draining you. Peace is when you go to sleep without replaying every argument. Peace is when you wake up and don't dread the good morning text that never comes. Peace is when your spirit feels safe in your own body again. It's when your worth is no longer tied to how someone else treats you. You'll start to notice things, that your laugh comes back, that your eyes look brighter, that you're not anxiously checking your phone for someone who's already moved on emotionally, that you can breathe fully, deeply, and with intention. And in that breath, you'll realize just how much space that person took up in your mind, in your time, in your soul. But here's the thing, nobody tells you healing doesn't feel strong at first. It feels raw, lonely, quiet. You'll miss them. You'll remember the good moments and question if you were wrong. You'll second guess your boundaries. You'll crave the comfort of the chaos you were used to. But don't go back, because the version of you who keeps returning to pain is not the version of you who will walk in power. Growth feels unfamiliar because you've never lived outside the cage they put you in. But freedom, it's always waiting just beyond the door you're scared to close. You're not being dramatic. You're not being too much. You're not asking for fairy tales. You're asking for what's healthy, for what's safe, for what's aligned with the woman you're becoming. And any relationship, romantic or otherwise, that forces you to betray yourself is a relationship you were never supposed to keep. Sometimes the cost of peace is walking away from people who once felt like home. But you must understand, not every home is safe. Some homes have leaking roofs, unstable walls, and doors that never truly close. And just because you grew up there emotionally doesn't mean you're meant to stay there forever. You have the right to create a new environment, one built on honesty, trust, effort, and mutual respect. Not guilt trips and emotional manipulation. Not gaslighting and silent treatments, not empty apologies followed by repeated offenses. You deserve to be loved in a way that doesn't require you to constantly recover from it. You'll know you're healing when you stop trying to fix people, When you stop bending yourself in hopes they'll finally see your value. When you realize that the right people won't need you to be perfect, just present, just real, just you. And let me say this loud, you are not too much for the right heart. You are not too ambitious, not too emotional, not too bold, not too soft, not too spiritual, not too loud, not too reserved, not too complicated. You are exactly who you're supposed to be, and someone out there is praying for a woman just like you, but you'll never meet them if you keep holding space for someone who doesn't even show up. So protect your time, protect your energy, protect your joy. Every time you say yes to what drains you, you are saying no to what could build you. You're giving your best to someone who doesn't even give you the bare minimum, and that's a betrayal you can't keep committing against yourself. This is not the season to lower your standards. This is not the season to stay stuck in something just because it's familiar. This is not the season to beg for breadcrumbs when God has a table waiting for you. You don't owe anyone access to your life just because you once shared a chapter with them. If they can't respect your growth, they don't deserve your presence. Not everyone is meant to go with you to the next level, and that's not rejection. That's redirection. You're going to have moments where you feel tempted to reach out, to check on them, to explain again. But let me remind you, if they truly cared, you wouldn't have to remind them how to treat you. You are not a rehab center for broken potential. You are not a mirror for someone to project their insecurities on. You are not a fixer, a filler, or a fantasy. You are a woman in the process of becoming whole, aware, powerful. Start walking like it. Start talking like it. Start choosing like it. Every time you say, I won't accept this anymore, you are rewriting your story. Every time you walk away from someone who once had the power to break you, you are reclaiming your voice. And every time you choose peace over performance, growth over guilt, clarity over confusion, you are healing generations behind you. Because let's be honest, some of you are the first in your family to say, I'm not staying where I'm not valued. You're breaking cycles of silence. You're shattering patterns of settling. You're redefining what love looks like. And yes, it's hard. It's uncomfortable. It's unfamiliar, but it's worth it. Because when you stand up for yourself, you teach your daughter, your sister, your niece, and even your younger self that she matters, that her worth is not tied to who she can keep, but who she becomes. And the version of you who walks in purpose, she doesn't beg, she attracts, she glows, she inspires, she leads. She doesn't lower herself, she rises, and the world around her adjusts. And when the world adjusts, you start to see something powerful. People either step up or step out. You stop chasing closure. You stop rehearsing your pain. You stop trying to make broken people whole with pieces of yourself. You stop playing the emotional savior, hoping that one day they'll wake up and finally see what you brought to the table. Because now you are the table. Let that settle in your spirit. You are the table, the invitation, the atmosphere, the experience. You are not someone to be tolerated. You are someone to be chosen, pursued, respected, celebrated, not just tolerated on lonely nights, not just remembered when convenience strikes, but loved fully, intentionally, and consistently. And you don't have to shrink for that kind of love. You don't have to become less. You don't have to accept halfway energy or conditional attention. The person who truly sees you won't make you audition for the role you were born to play in their life. They won't weaponize your love against you. They won't disappear when things get real. They'll show up, hold space, and match your energy. So the question becomes, are you willing to release what's familiar in exchange for what's right? Because that's what most people feel. Not loneliness, but the void that comes when they finally let go of something they got used to, even if it was hurting them. Familiar pain is still pain. Don't stay just because you memorized the map of someone else's dysfunction. There is more ahead, more joy, more peace, more alignment. But you can't receive what's next if your hands are still full of what was. You see, when you finally say, I deserve better, it's not about arrogance. It's about awareness. It's about awareness. It's about finally understanding that love without respect is manipulation. That loyalty without reciprocity is exploitation. That presence without effort is performance. You can't keep loving people who only love the version of you that's convenient for them. Our love doesn't demand that you disappear to make others comfortable. Love doesn't punish you for having emotions. Love doesn't withhold affection to prove a point. Love doesn't come and go like the weather. Real love shows up in consistency, in effort, in small daily choices that say, you matter to me. And if you're not getting that, why are you still convincing yourself it's love? Let me tell you something else, Queen. There is power in being unavailable, not cold, not guarded, not bitter, just unavailable to people who refuse to honor your presence. You're not bitter for setting standards. You're not cold for having boundaries. You're not difficult for refusing to play small. You're just a woman who's tired of negotiating her value for the sake of companionship. Stop romanticizing struggle, love. Stop calling it loyalty when it's really self-abandonment. Stop clinging to the idea of who they could be and accept who they consistently are. You've cried enough. You've begged enough. You've given more than enough. Now it's time to receive. Receive peace. Receive clarity. Receive healing. Receive the kind of love that doesn't drain you, the kind of friendship that pours back into you, the kind of joy that isn't rooted in someone else's presence, but in your own wholeness. You're not looking for perfection. You're looking for alignment, for someone whose energy doesn't confuse your spirit, for someone whose words match their actions, for someone who doesn't just want your body, your help, or your silence, but wants you, your heart, your dreams, your life. And if they can't see that, if they can't hold that with care, then they don't deserve you. It's that simple. Because there will come a time when someone will look at you and say, where have you been all my life? And you'll smile, not because you needed their validation, but because they came correct, with presence, with peace, with patience, with pursuit. But you'll never meet that version of love if you keep lowering your standard just to keep a warm body next to you. There's something sacred about solitude, about learning how to love yourself so completely that anyone who enters your life becomes a bonus, not a lifeline. You are not incomplete. You are not missing anything. You are not half of a whole. You are already whole. You are already enough. And when you operate from that place, you start to attract differently. You attract respect, stability, clarity. You attract people who recognize your value, not because you scream it, but because you carry it. You stop answering late-night texts from people who don't deserve daytime access to you. You stop going back to situations that left you drained, confused, and anxious. You stop accepting half-effort and broken promises, because now you know who you are. Now you know what you bring. Now you know what it feels like to choose yourself and not apologize for it. And yes, it'll be lonely sometimes. But let me tell you, that loneliness will never compare to the pain of constantly begging someone to see you, to hear you, to choose you. So if you're standing at the edge right now, wondering if it's worth walking away, wondering if you'll regret it, wondering if you'll find someone else, let me remind you, God never removes without replacing. He doesn't call you to walk away from something toxic unless he's already prepared something better. But you won't find it if you keep running back to what broke you. This is your healing season, your upgrade season, your peaceful season, the season where you stop second-guessing your worth and start living like the queen you are. No more shrinking, no more settling, no more suffering in silence just to say you have someone. The woman you're becoming doesn't chase, she attracts. She doesn't beg, she chooses. She doesn't break herself down to be digestible. She stands tall, speaks with purpose, walks in power, and when people approach her, they either rise to the level of her standard or they fall away. That's not arrogance. That's alignment. That's not pride. That's self-respect. That's not coldness. That's clarity. Because once you know who you are, once you've tasted peace, once you've felt the power of choosing yourself, you never go back. And let me tell you, when you never go back, something in you changes forever. You no longer look for someone to complete you because you realize deep in your soul, you were never broken in the first place. You were just misjudged, misused, misunderstood. You were loyal in a world that rewards detachment. You were real in a season that favored convenience over commitment. But none of that broke you. It built you. It showed you what not to accept. It taught you how to recognize the signs. It trained your spirit to pause before pouring, to observe before opening, to pray before pursuing. And most of all, it taught you that you are the prize. You've cried long enough over people who weren't crying over you. You've explained yourself enough to people who had no intention of understanding. You've stayed long enough in places where your soul was slowly dying in silence. Now you rise, not because they apologized, not because they changed, not because they begged you back, but because you finally realized you were always enough. You don't need validation from someone who couldn't even value you. You don't need closure from someone who wasn't open to communication when it mattered. You don't need a grand gesture from someone who couldn't meet you with consistency. All you need is you. That voice inside that says, I deserve better. That gut feeling you've ignored for too long. That whisper from God reminding you that He didn't create you to suffer endlessly in a cycle of confusion, neglect, and second guessing. You deserve a love that doesn't make you beg, a love that comes with clarity, not chaos, that builds, not breaks, that calls you higher, not hides you in the shadows. You deserve a partner who sees your soul, not just your smile, someone who asks, how are you really doing, and listens without interrupting. Someone who doesn't run at the first sign of struggle, but stays and grows with you through it. But let me be clear, you will never attract that kind of love if you're still making room for the wrong kind. You've got to make space, clear the clutter, let go of placeholders, delete the just-in-case numbers, cut off access to people who only show up when they feel like it. Because here's the truth, what you tolerate teaches others how to treat you. If you accept disrespect, it becomes the standard. If you keep showing up for someone who never shows up for you, you become predictable. And predictable women are easy to mistreat because the other person assumes you'll always be there no matter what they do. Break that cycle, break that belief. Show yourself in the world that your presence is a privilege, not a guarantee. You are not here to be someone's emotional punching bag. You are not here to be a second option when nothing else works out. You are not here to be tolerated in silence, pitied in private, or paraded in public only when it benefits them. You are here to be loved boldly, respected deeply, and cherished intentionally. So raise your standard not to punish others, but to protect your peace. When your peace becomes non-negotiable, your life transforms. You stop craving chaos. You stop mistaking tension for passion. You stop calling anxiety butterflies, and you begin to fall in love with calm, with ease, with clarity. And when you reach that level, you're no longer impressed by sweet words with no action. You don't get excited by breadcrumb affection. You stop feeling the urge to chase, prove, or plead. Instead, you wait. You wait for someone who brings the same energy. You wait for someone who isn't afraid of your power, your past, your presence, or your potential. You wait not out of desperation, but from a place of confidence, because the woman who has healed, the woman who has walked away from what no longer serves her, the woman who has rebuilt herself after being torn down, that woman, she doesn't settle. She knows that being alone and at peace is better than being accompanied and anxious. She knows that temporary loneliness is nothing compared to long-term self-betrayal. She knows that her future deserves more than her past could ever offer, and so she chooses herself over and over again, with trembling hands sometimes, yes, with a broken heart at first, yes, but she chooses herself anyway. Because the pain of healing is always less than the pain of staying stuck. So let this be the day you stop making room for what breaks you. Let this be the season where you prioritize your peace like it's sacred, because it is. Let this be the moment where you stop watering dead plants and start building your own garden. And as you rise, know this, the right people will never require you to lower your standard to keep their attention. They'll meet you where you are, or they'll step aside for the ones who can. Because love should never cost you your self-worth. Respect should never be up for negotiation. And connection should never demand that you lose connection with yourself. You are not for everyone, and that's okay. You don't need everyone to understand. You don't need the whole world to clap for your growth. You just need to stand in your truth. And if that truth means walking alone for a while, then so be it. Because the woman who walks alone with purpose will always be more powerful than the one who walks with the crowd in confusion. So walk tall, head high, heart open, boundaries firm, and spirit anchored, because now you know who you are, and now you know this truth. You never have to lower yourself just to keep someone who was never ready to rise with you.